Hello, and welcome to Module 4, Aligning Assessment with Institutional Priorities. My name is Ben Andrews, and I will be leading you through this module's content. The best assessment projects consider and align with broader institutional priorities. Many times this happens through strategic planning at all levels of the organization. The fundamental idea behind strategic planning is that we do our work with purpose, with intention, as we strive toward a better future for the organization. But performing our work with this kind of strategic purpose requires a clear understanding of what the organization does and why, as well as where the organization is headed. We usually define these through pithy phrases called mission and vision statements. A mission statement should clarify the organization's purpose and indicate why it is doing what it does. In other words, it should answer this question: ultimately, what are we here to do and why? A vision describes in brief what the organization should look like as it successfully implements its strategies and achieves its full potential. A vision statement answers the question, where and what do we want to be? Or, put more fully, what might we look like, or what might we ideally be in the future, given expected opportunities, challenges, and anticipated action needed to get there. These definitions provide a conceptual understanding of these statements. We will talk more about building and using these statements in your practice in the next video of this module. As we proceed, let's consider the terminology established in strategic plans by higher levels within the organization. In general, we focus on the mission, on the whole, what the organization does, the vision, or what we want to be, as well as outcomes, which are expected, observable behaviors and actions that result from our intentional experience. We then, of course, measure all of this using the measures within the context of our assessment projects. The mission statement guides the development of goals, outcomes, and assessment measures. Most directly, goals and their subsequent outcomes and measures should be driven by the mission statement. Once goals are identified, several learning and operational outcomes can be written that break the goal down into smaller, more manageable and measurable chunks. After outcomes are drafted, one or more assessment measures can be used to collect data and determine if the outcomes and subsequent goals have been met. Let's consider an example of this process. Suppose your institution has a mission to promote deep learning for all students, and maybe within this broader idea is a goal to engage first-generation college students in a way that supports their learning so they have similar learning outcomes as non-first-generation students at the institution. There are a number of approaches we might take to measure this sequence of ideas. One example of an assessment project that would align with this institutional priority might gather a focus group of first-generation students together and facilitate a conversation about how the institution could better support them in this kind of learning. Another example might survey all students and gather data on self-evaluated learning or perceptions of institutional support for deep learning and compare first-generation students with non-first-generation students on these outcomes. Now, neither one of these assessment approaches covers all the necessary bases for answering these questions or provides perfect data for decision-making, but they align with the general idea as established in the mission of the institution, and that's the primary focus of this video. You can also see how, depending on the results of the assessment project, the institution might change its practice and progress toward the kind of institution it wants to be as defined in its vision statement. So the mission and vision not only direct this idea of strategic planning in alignment with assessment projects, but they interact with one another as the current projects defined by the mission statement of an institution are connected to the projects that would require the institution to achieve what it wants to be as defined by its vision statement. And of course, all of our assessment projects and the best assessment that we can do will align with these different ideas. Assessment operates within the context of the institution, division, department, and program. The mission and vision of these different areas are reflective of one another and drive student learning outcomes and the subsequent measure of these programs because mission and vision statements reflect priorities and values which drive the questions we ask and the data we collect. The mission statement of the organization can provide a lens through which to begin processing information which guides reporting and analysis of assessment data. Assessment questions often focus on the purpose or values of the program or service offered. Meaningful data and reporting reflect larger department, divisional, and institutional priorities. And stay tuned for the next video in this module to talk about how we go about writing mission and vision statements so that in the context of your organization and in your assessment projects, you have a clear plan forward to align your projects and measurements with broader institutional priorities.